Ain't nothing like a good mystery. Arguably, a book is a perfect format for this kind of stories too. Like, have you ever heard of the term page turner? As in the kind of book that makes you want to keep on going. Well, I've found that the best way to enjoy this kind of book is a little bit at a time. Trust me, fellow Zoomers, a little bit of self-control goes a long way in enjoying media. So here are the top 10 mystery books to read 10 pages at a time before going to sleep. Number 10 is Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. Did you like The Martian? Would you like to have more The Martian? Kidding aside, if you are a big sci-fi fan, you will enjoy this quite a lot. And if you're a big enough nerd, you might actually figure out the twists and turns before they happen, which is about half the fun in this kind of stories. This one ticks plenty of boxes for me, but I do get if you don't like it, so I'll go ahead and tell you. The book is funny and it's got a pretty good Zyper-Phi coefficient, but if you didn't like Mark Watney in The Martian, as in the quirky, optimistic, self-deprecating nerd, well, that's like the one character Andy Weir knows how to write, so you're probably not gonna like this one. Number 9 is The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. There is some contentiousness among Sherlockians when it comes to the proper reading order. This is a short story collection that includes A Scandal in Bohemia. It's actually the first story in the book, and spoilers, Sherlock gets outsmarted by Irene Adler. Someone out-Sherlocking Sherlock is very rare, but a woman? So scandalous! Very Bohemian. This story is about 20 pages, so you do get that satisfying resolution multiple times in one book. If you liked it, you can go ahead and read A Stud in Scarlet for some more Sherlock Watson banter. Some people don't like that the second half of the book is basically a flashback. Maybe you skip it, I don't know. Third is the sign of 4, where at this point we are in for the lore, really, and lore we get. Then is the casebook of Sherlock Holmes. You could skip this one, legitimately. It's arguably the weakest one and it's mostly standalone stuff. But there are 2 stories that are narrated by Sherlock himself. Pick your interest? Not gonna tell you which ones, read it yourself. Follow that up with The Valley of Fear for the best mystery proper in the whole series. Then we read The Memoirs of Sherlock Holmes, another collection, with the final short story being the infamous The Last Problem. I'd say that after that you can consider yourself a true Sherlockian. One of us. But we do still have plenty more to explore. We have The Return of Sherlock Holmes, which I'd actually argue is the best collection as far as characterization goes. Then The Hound of the Baskervilles, a gothic horror mystery that many consider Arthur Conan Doyle's best work. And finally, His Last Bow, another short story collection that gives us some closure. It's Sherlock and Watson in the First World War. Not a lot of detective work in this one. Kind of a weak finish if I'm being honest. But hey, that's how it goes. Unless... what if I told you there is another? Okay, so I could get my card revoked for this one, but have you ever heard the tale of The Beekeeper's Apprentice? It's basically a fanfic that pairs a 15-year-old girl with Sherlock. It's fine, I guess. I like the first one a lot. It's very charming, but there's like 20 of them. If you want something more in line with Doyle proper, there's the Anthony Horowitz Sherlock stuff. It's 2 books right now, The House of Silk and Moriarty. They are both canon, technically, since he did get permission from the Arthur Conan Doyle estate. And The House of Silk fits well enough into the canon. I don't care for Moriarty though, a bit too pompous for my taste. Reminds me more of the Cumberbatch Sherlock than the stuff proper. No offense, ladies. A couple of other pastiches that I do enjoy are Shadows over Baker Street by Michael Reeves. It's a fun Lovecraft x Doyle matchup which just makes sense. The Further Adventures of Sherlock Holmes, The War of the Worlds by Manly Wade Wellman has Sherlock in a sci-fi setting, which you already know I dig, and it even features Professor Challenger from The Lost World. The other really good Conan Doyle novel that's completely eclipsed by Sherlock. And The Final Solution, a very ambitious novella that features an old Sherlock in 1944. My headcanon is that the House of Silk happened after A Stout in Scarlet, Shadows over Baker Street and the further adventures happened a bit after The Hound of the Baskervilles. And after his last bow, we get The Beekeeper's Apprentice and The Final Solution, which, yes, if you hadn't noticed, it's both a play on words on the final problem and genocide. Oh crap, this is a list, right? Sue me, dude, I like Sherlock, what can I say? Number 8 is Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. Last night I dreamt I went to Manderley again. Iconic. We never do get a name proper for the narrator though, isn't that interesting? Or I guess she does have one eventually, but we don't get a given name, we just get Mercer's the Winter. I really do feel like I've said a little bit too much about this one already. Man, that's the thing with these mystery books, right? Like, it's hard to review them while conserving the, well, mystery. What's the hook, Dan? I hear you ask. It's the gothic atmosphere, the whirlwind romance and the gripping mystery that's sure to captivate you during your first read and then do it all over again on your 10th. You see, before you, nameless narrator with no personality that the reader can project into, Maximilian de Winter used to have a wife. Her name was Rebecca, and she was better than you in every way. She was a beautiful princess, and the Manderley estate was her castle. You don't belong here. Number 7 is Bottoms Up and the Devil Laughs by Carrie Howley. This one might be stretching it a little bit too thin. I know what you're thinking. Is the title a reference to that one Monster Energy meme? Hold up.
God can use people and product, so can Satan. And look at it this way. Even if the M was not the issue, you cannot deny that that is a cross. And what is witchcraft? When the cross goes upside down, bottoms up, and the devil laughs.
That one, yes it is. It's also non-fiction, or I guess it depends on your interpretation. It does dive into conspiracy theory, and the second half of the book mostly deals with the reality winner case. You know, the lady that leaked a bunch of state secrets in 2016. I actually think buying this one puts you in some sort of list. I do love a dangerous book, don't get me wrong, and this one might be bad enough that I might be hesitant to let an impressionable 15-year-old read it, which is high praise, if you wanna look at it like that. So, at your own risk, I suppose. Number 6 is Comfort Me With Apples by Catherine M. Valente. You know, I really dislike when writers just throw out their heavy-handed allegories at me like, you know. Listen, I get it, man, you had a 4.0 GPA in high school, went to Dartmouth for 2 semesters, then transferred to a community college, you took a creative writing class before finally dropping out. Turns out it's easy to be the smartest guy in the room when you don't have to face any real adversity. As soon as a little bit of pressure enters the equation, you fall apart. You're not special. You'll never get out of this town. This novella has one of my favorite twists in recent memory. I'm sure you'll be able to guess what it is before it happens. All from context clues alone. Because you are so smart, cultured, and handsome. So just come along with me, come closer, let's move on. Nothing to see here, like, literally. It's really dark all of a sudden, isn't it? Hold up, there you go. In-A-Gadda da Beta, baby. What number were we on? Number 5 is The Crying of Lot 49 by Thomas Pynchon. You hear that? That's the sound of a million readers clenching their butts at the sound of the name Thomas Pynchon. Beautiful. People like to say this is Pynchon's most accessible book. It is the shortest, and if you wanna take it on at face value, it's a book about a mail distribution company. Something funny about this one is that whenever I recommended the book to someone that wasn't an avid reader of this kind of stories, and they decide to actually follow my recommendation and then still choose to talk to me in spite of what I did to them, they often come out with a pretty good grasp of the themes, or better than I had at first at least. Fans of the authors of their works, like, admittedly, myself, will often just end up looking for symbolisms and trying to analyze the context. All to no avail. The Crying of Lot 49 doesn't have answers, but it does have plenty of questions, which is truly infuriating. It's as if the book is punishing you for trying to look too deep into things. It's also really fun. It's as if the book is rewarding you for spending time on it. You know, sometimes a wastebasket is just a wastebasket. Except when it isn't, then it's really important that you learn how to identify the difference. Number 4 is 11/22/63. King! Does it happen in a small town in Maine? Jack? Is the background love story questionable? Jack. Is it about as long as the Bible? Yes, sir. Is it a good time? Darn right. 11/22/63 deals with time travel, so as the rule goes, depending on how good the writer is, you are either in for a collection of cliches shaped into a convoluted and uninspired character piece, or you are in for the stuff. No in-betweens. Thankfully, Mr. King delivers. In fact, call him the Amazon Man because at this point, it's almost a guarantee for his novels. By the way, did you know that according to her biography, JFK was good friends with Judy Garland and would have her sing the Over the Rainbow song every time they talked on the phone? Every single time. Number 3 is Piranesi by Susanna Clarke. This is a book about labyrinths and metamorphosis. It's one of those hard reads. How do I express quotations in verbal form? Well, as in you are expected to pay attention, no skimming. The narrator, Piranesi, who is maybe a reference to Giambattista Piranesi, an Italian architect / artist / archaeologist from the 18th century. I think the name might be more relevant than I give it credit for now that I think about it. More context about the guy's life might be a straight up spoiler. I'm not 100% as to whether the book is supposed to be a metaphor, like there's another book by this author called Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell where it's set in England during the Napoleonic War, except there's magic. But I don't think that's the case here. I don't think the narrator is meant to be the same Piranesi as the one that actually existed. It's more of a thematic sort of deal. Number 2 is The Name of the Rose by Umberto Eco. Sherlock Holmes in medieval times? Sign me up! Now, don't worry, I'll try to be brief here. The book is dense with references to a bunch of weird and obscure crap, but not like Foucault's pendulum. That was Eco using 20% of his power this time, and I get that it's kind of messed up that I'm trying to justify it like this. It's a good mystery book, but we're gonna need help. So this entry is a double whammy of The Name of the Rose and The Key to the Name of the Rose by Adele J. Haft, Robert J. White and Jane G. White. The Key includes translations to all the non-English passages, supplemental historical and philosophical essays, and a glossary of all the people mentioned in the novel. Listen, I get that Umberto Eco tends towards being a bit of a snob, and his writing can feel grating and condescending at times, but this story is quite enjoyable when read alongside The Key, and you get to feel like a scholar while doing so too. Number 1 is The Library at Mount Jar by Scott Hawkins. Back to the really weird stuff. This is a dark book, and not necessarily in a good way, so I'm gonna tell you what it is about. You'll go, that sounds awful, why would I want to read that before going to sleep? Then I'm gonna go, fair enough, coward. So somewhere in Virginia, 12 kids are orphaned. Their homes destroyed, they have nothing. So father, or as I like to call him in private, the big bad booty daddy, adopts them Daddy is the grand overlord of the infinite library, so he gives each of the children a gift, a knowledge that they are to pursue, understand, and use. Have you heard of the phrase firm but just? Daddy is more like a huge dick, or was, because father is dead.